The theme that we worked with, which was suggested to me by Allie, our Minister of Youth, and Jeff, our Minister of Christian Education, was we're all in this together, which really fits beautifully with the idea that we are part of this great cloud of witnesses and that God has made us to be together. How many of you are familiar with High School Musical? All right. How many of you are rhythmically challenged like me? Jeff says he is. Wow. Anyway, so I'm not going to pretend to be Zac Efron, but the lyrics in this song fit beautifully. We're all in this together. Everyone is special in their own way. We make each other strong. We're not the same. We're different in a good way. That's where we belong. We're all in this together. Once we know that we're all stars, and we see that we're all in this together, and it shows when we stand hand in hand, make our dreams come true. We are all in this together. Everyone is special in their own way. We make each other strong, the great cloud of witnesses. We're not the same. We're different in a good way. We are part of the great cloud of witnesses that the writer of the letter to the Hebrews talks about. So that is, of course, the picture of a woman who's pregnant. One of the things that we know about the way that human beings are formed is that there is this community of two that exists between a mother and her child as the child in gestation is developing. There is this thing called the umbilical cord that connects mother with child, and without that there is no life. There is this community of two. Mom and baby are all in it together. And so as we think about what it means to be a part of this great cloud of witnesses, I want you to imagine this baby being born into the world through this mom and this connection we call the umbilical cord. And then what happens when a child is born? The cord gets cut. And from then on, every child has issues with his or her mother. That's just how it goes. I'm just kidding, Lynn. It's true? Okay. I love my mother. I have no issues with her anymore. No, I'm just kidding. But that's how it is. We're all in this together. And in case you don't believe it, take a look at this. You know what that is, right? Andrew, what is that? It's a belly button. That's right. So don't do it now, please. But when you go home, maybe touch your belly button as a reminder that we're all in this together. You never know what might come out of it, David. Maybe a little lint, but it's a good reminder that we're all in this together, that we are connected, and that without each other, there is no life. We're all in this together. A group of adults mentored these confirmation students who remembered their baptism today. If you went through something like confirmation, you know that there were adults who watched over you and who supported you and who prayed for you. Yesterday afternoon, we had a co-ed wedding shower for our son Seth and his fiancée Kelsey. One of the things that I loved the most about yesterday is that I had made contact with Seth's small group confirmation guide from Michigan days, who now lives in Columbus. And he came in the door and he surprised Seth. And it was a great way to be reminded of the mentors who shape us together. Pat Miller and I had a chance to do that small group work together, and we survived it, Andrew. And it was a good way to support these young men, these boys who were very bright, very squirrely, but great kids. And so we were able to do that. We all have mentors of one way or the other who support us in our walk of faith. We're all in it together. Without those mentors, we are not in that kind of relationship with Jesus. Mentors make all the difference. We're all in this together. You know, I want to say something that I said at 9:30 that might have tweaked the parents a little bit, possibly. What I said was, there are a lot of parents who want their children to get a little taste of Jesus. And so they bring them to Vacation Bible School. Little taste of Jesus. Mom and dad are ambivalent, maybe, about this Jesus guy. Maybe they have no sense of a connection at all, but somewhere they heard it's a good thing for their kid to get a little taste of Jesus. The same thing can be true with confirmation. I'm not sure what it means, parents might say, but somebody told me it's a good thing, and so we're going to do it. We're going to give our kid a little taste of Jesus. But what I talked about at 9:30 was this: what would happen if their lives were actually changed as a result of Vacation Bible School and confirmation? What would happen if they came out of it seeing the world differently, with more of a concern about justice, with more of a concern about the poor, with more of a concern about people who are on the outside? What would happen if kids went to VBS or confirmation and came home like that? How would that be for parents who weren't quite sure what they thought about the whole thing? Well, there's this wonderful poem at the Smithville Methodist Church that kind of captures what I was trying to say at 9:30 about what can happen when kids have an encounter with Jesus in a healthy and a good way, and what it might mean to parents. It was supposed to be arts and crafts for a week, but she came home with a Jesus Saves button, and we knew what art was up, what ancient craft. She liked her little friends. She liked the songs they sang when they weren't twisting and folding paper into dolls. What could be so bad? Jesus had been a good man, and putting faith in good men was what we had to do to say this side of cynicism. Okay, we said, 1 week. But when she came home singing, Jesus loves me, the Bible tells me so, it was time to talk. Could we say Jesus doesn't love you? Can I tell that the Bible is a great book certain people use to make you feel bad? We sent her back without a word. It had been so long since we believed, so long since we needed Jesus as our nemesis and friend, that we thought he was sufficiently dead, that our children would think of him like Lincoln or Thomas Jefferson. Soon it became clear to us you can't teach disbelief to a child, only wonderful stories, and we hadn't a story nearly as good. On Parents' Night, there were the arts and crafts all spread out like appetizers. Then we took our seats in the church, and the children sang a song about the ark and hallelujah, and one in which they had to jump up and down for Jesus. Can't remember ever feeling so uncertain about what's comic, what's serious. Evolution is magical but devoid of heroes. You can't say to your child, evolution loves you. I didn't have a wonderful story for my child, and she was beaming. All the way home in the car, she sang the songs, occasionally standing up for Jesus. There was nothing to do but drive, write it out, sing along in silence. So what happens if kids come to confirmation and their lives are actually changed? What happens if the Spirit moves in the lives of children and parents aren't quite ready for it, not quite even sure they want it? What if these 6 students will change the world in some ways that will surprise their parents and us because of what they learned, what they experienced? It can be a threat to parents who aren't quite sure they're into it at all. We are all in this together. Generations of faith. I think of my great-grandfather. Pop Gee was his nickname. He died when he was 91 years old. He was a fundamentalist Christian. I didn't see the world in much the same way that he did, but I knew that he was faithful. My grandfather, Bernard Gee, died when he was 85. He was a fundamentalist, but I knew that he was faithful, and so I respected him. My father, who grew up in that Wesleyan Methodist, very severe tradition, who became a Lutheran because he had to in order to marry my mother, and so that's kind of how that went. There are these generations of people who come before us, who form us. You know who they are in your own world. Think about it. Think of the people who have come before you, this great cloud of witnesses that have changed your life, that have encouraged your faith, that have shown you what it is truly to be led by a Jesus who is often unknown by many people. We're all in this together. Martin Niemöller was a Lutheran pastor in World War II Germany with all of the horrible things happening there. And he wrote this: "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist." He forgot that they were all in this together, and he separated himself. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. He forgot that they were all in this together. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. He forgot that we were all in this together. And finally, they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. You see, he didn't speak out and speak up about this connection that all of us have. And by the time it was over, he was standing alone, vulnerable, because he didn't remember that we are all in this together. I talked to our junior high students about bullying in schools. It's probably always been there, but it seems like maybe we are more aware of it than we have been before. And so I said to them that one of the ways that they could express their faith in Jesus was simply to approach a person who was bullying another student and tell him to stop. Bullying is a dehumanizing thing. It is a horrible thing. It is to make a student or any of us feel less than human. And so bullying is something that needs to stop. It's not always physical. Sometimes it's nasty things that are said behind the backs of people. Sometimes it is demeaning other people. And so I said to these 6 girls, follow Jesus, go to these people, tell them to stop, and you can make a difference in the world and remind them that we are all in this together. So there's that passage from Hebrews that I love so much. We are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, and you are a part of that for each other. You are a part of that for these 6 confirmation students, even if you weren't here at 9:30. Think of the people who have been those saints of the faith for you, that big cloud of witnesses who hold you in their arms and remind you and us that we're all in this together. Look at this picture. Pretty diverse group of folks. You see African Americans and Euro and Asian and whatever else, but this circle, this cloud of witnesses, they're hanging in there together, and they're surrounding each other with the kind of love that Jesus can teach us. It's not an exclusive love, it's inclusive, it's broad, and it's big, and it's for everyone, it's for the whole world. We are all in this together. So I asked the students, what's next? What's next? These 6 young girls who were sitting here hoping that I would stop talking to them within about 2 feet. So I went over here and I said, so what's next? What's going to happen? Because there is a road, there is a path to follow, and everybody follows a slightly different path. So what's next? That's not only a question for 8th grade students, it's a question for us. Andrew graduated yesterday from Capital University. Well done. Andrew's next path, I am very pleased to say, is to walk across the street to Trinity Lutheran Seminary. So Andrew's going to be a pastor someday, and we are excited for you. I'm excited for you. So that's your path. Now, there are a lot of wonderful paths, whether you want to be a teacher or a lawyer or... Lynn, what did you do for Nationwide? Lynn helped people retire. That's a good road. That's a good road. So what's next? So we talked with this group, and I said, okay, do you know where Tim Hortons is? They all raised their hand reluctantly. They knew it was a trick question. So you know where it is. Okay. I said, we have this thing called PB&J, Pastor Barry and Jesus, PB&J, and we meet Friday mornings from 6:15 to 7:30 a.m. So I pulled out this gift card, one for each of them, and I said, I want to give this to you. And then I looked on the back, and I realized that it said something kind of unusual. It said, this card is only good on Friday mornings from 6:15 to 7:30. What do you know? Actually, it's good anytime, and Andrew is a small token of our support. So I expect to see you Friday morning early. Okay. Yeah, so what's next? We all ask that question from time to time, and we want to be open, and who knows what's next. But wherever we go, God is with us. God is surrounding us with a great cloud of witnesses, and there's no graduation. I have friends, and I'm not going to say who they are. This is going to be on our website. I have pastor friends whose libraries 30 years later look no different than they did when we graduated. In other professions, if you don't read, if you don't grow, if you don't change, you're fired. Pastors never graduate, and none of us ever graduate. Constantly learning, constantly open, constantly curious. And so I said to the students, this is not graduation. This is a step. And what's next? Pray about that, see where it heads. So there is a song that Becky would like to share with us that helps to give expression to this idea that we are part of this great cloud of witnesses and that we are blessed. And this song was especially for our 8th grade students who affirmed their baptism.
We watch them running down the aisles. Children's time, Sunday morning. The preacher asked them who they loved. They all smiled and started pointing to their mom, their dad, the teacher from their kindergarten class. Each and every one had just become a cloud of witnesses that would see them through the years. They cheer them with a smile and pray them through the tears. A cloud of witnesses that would see them to the end and shower them with love that never ends. A cloud of witnesses. They stuck together through the years, the best of friends love could foster. So when they found out one of them had heard the news, he lost his father, they ran to him and prayed and put their hands upon his head. And slowly, one by one, they'd all become a cloud of witnesses. As they sent above a prayer, they took a hold of hands and circled round a friend. A cloud of witnesses with a faith just like a rock. They helped him give his father back to God as a cloud of witnesses. So when it comes the time, the heaven calls, they'll come running to see the ones who've gone before, who ran the race and made the journey home to find waiting for them at the finish line, cheering happily. They will run, they will see. A cloud of witnesses line up on the streets of gold as they run the final race that leads them to a throne. And through the cloud of witnesses, they see God upon the throne. And as they fall into his arms, they know they're home in a cloud of witnesses, surrounded by a cloud We watch them running down the aisle. Children's time, Sunday morning.